Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today we are going to look at the Declaration of Independence and how it seems to be rhyming with today and Donald Trump's presidency. Because honestly, he'll put you a lot in mind of King George III in the way he's treated the people. But yeah, let's get into this. This is from the National Historical Parks of Pennsylvania, and they give an overview of it. In the beginning is the preamble. You discuss individual rights with what is perhaps one of the most famous lines. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that, Jefferson also addresses a counterclaim in the section acknowledging that prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. But however, he makes clear that there is this, and he gives it, it's a huge list of what they perceive as grievances, which would be the next part. But yeah. Now, of course, it is the Declaration of Independence, which Jefferson is the primary author, though he would have help in other parts. He, for the most part, was the primary author. Now, the longest part of the Declaration begins with, he has refused his assent to laws, and goes on to list the unfair actions of the King and Parliament, which, remember, is not in the North America. It's still way over in Great Britain. In their complaint, the colonists make it clear that they are angry with the king and government for taking away their rights as English citizens. And remember, there's a lot of things going on. And the citizens are essentially getting the screws put to them. They're losing a lot of rights, economic self-sufficiency, point out the king has ignored or changed their colonial governments as well as their rights to a trial by jury, which should sound familiar. Due process, which has been taken away from many immigrants. And the Constitution has always guaranteed due process. It is one of the things they set forward. They don't make any bones about it. Anybody within the jurisdiction, it don't matter if they're born here. It don't matter if they came here illegally. No, if you're in the jurisdiction of the U.S., it means if you're on U.S. land, then you have due process, a right to trial by jury. The colonists accused the king of sending a hired army to force them to obey unjust laws. Kind of reminds me of when Trump sent Marines into California during protests which weren't really violent at frickin' all. They say the king is unfit to be a ruler of a free people. Which, yeah, remember, most of them left their homeland to escape persecution. Yet, even in this supposed new world, it follows them. So yeah. After he lists the grievances, we have the formal declaring of independence. So yeah. And it finishes out with the signatures of the people at the second, I believe it was the Second Continental Congress. And of course, this is where John Hancock signed his name huge. And thus kind of set the saying, put your Hancock here, when people often say, go ahead and sign it. So yeah, where John Hancock signed it so large. Yeah, he wrote his name very large. Some of the men abbreviated their first names, like Jefferson and Franklin. All of the signers risked their lives when they signed the Declaration of Independence. So yeah. Now, with that said, let's go and look at this. This is from archives.gov, the Declaration of Independence, a transcription. Which it says the following text is a transcription of the stone engraving of the parchment Declaration of Independence. The document is on display in the rotunda at the National Archives Museum. The spelling and punctuation reflects the original. And you'll see that some words will be the older forms of what you would normally know themselves as. There's a part I know in particular, it says hath shewn, which means has shown. But anyway, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. This part ain't always in the declaration. Usually it starts with the next part. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organizing its powers in such form. And to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly all experience hath shewn that mankind are more disposed to suffer while the evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having indirect object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. So that's our preamble. That's how it starts. When next we get into it, we'll be looking at the grievances. But let's go back and look at this preamble. He wants to make it known. Human beings, people, have certain rights. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These are rights. Whether you like it or not, belong to the people. And it's very arguable that many of these are unattainable without certain forms of aid, where the government provides help to the people. It derives its powers, as it says, from the consent of the governed. It's not that they should blindly follow a government. The government should bow to them. And whenever that government decides it doesn't like those and becomes destructive of those ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute a new government. So yeah, the colonists made this clear. They were like, look, there's certain things that certain lines you should not cross. Now, the foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety, providing defense of the nation and happiness. Your ability to obtain life and a pursuit of happiness, and not have other obstacles in your way, whether it be health and other things. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. So, yeah, don't do this willy-nilly if your government's been around for a while. But he says, mankind will suffer if the evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms of the government to which they are accustomed. So usually people will take certain wrongs and just go with the flow. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. So, yeah, don't take it, oh, it's just something we can do. But when serious rights and freedoms and so many abuses, when they're being destroyed and so many abuses are happening, yeah, this is something we need to pay attention to. Absolutely. Absolutely. And when it does hit that point to where it's clearly unfair and unjust, then you have that right. It's not just a right, it is a duty to rid yourself of that government. But yeah, such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. So, saying, this is why we have decided we shall proclaim independence. And this brings us into the grievances, the list. And, yeah. Now, when we go over this list, you'll notice several that eerily echo the abuses we face today under the Trump regime. Yeah. But we'll go ahead and end this episode here. This will be part 1. Hopefully I should get it done in about 3 parts. But anyway, as always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below. Educate thyself, think, read. Yeah, okay. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.